I'm at Wally World. Wally World, the greatest place in all of America.
I want to thank you for all the subscriptions you've given.
Let's see. Hold on. Hold on. You're cutting in and out. Hold on. Hold up. All right. Go ahead. So I've seen in the last few months, watched a couple episodes of Raw from back in 1997. I want to say early, probably as in like May and June, going into King of the Ring. There it goes. So, what did you think of Monday Night Raw this past week?
Rearview mirror, WWE's building.
So, so interesting thing I caught on to last night's show for SmackDown. Um, uh huh. So, so uh, it's a Cody Rhodes doll. um. Oh, and they got wait. They got Roman Reigns doll too. It's funny. So the funny thing is that I thought was creative by them Monday night was how reluctant they're going to be when they go into Bad Blood this year, because I feel like all the storylines that have been set up now um for them to take the next level and going into Survivor Series, I feel like having maybe three Hell in a Cell matches for Bad Blood. Yeah, I feel like having Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I, hold on. Let me see if I can go back up front. Maybe that's probably why. Hold on. I don't know if it's yours or mine. But let me see. Oh my god! All right, so there we go. So the way they're setting up for Survivor Series is I like the fact that going into Bad Blood, you're getting at least maybe 3 Hell in a Cell matches because you're gonna have one for the girls and then you're gonna have 2 for the guys.
Yeah.
Which I think is gonna be okay, even though it's like they say it's called Bad Blood for a reason. It's not only doing it because of the situation being they're not gonna try to do Hell in a Cell matches throughout the whole pay per view because that's not the way it's supposed to be. The whole scenario between all these matches that they're gonna vie for with like the Rhea Ripley, the Liv Morgan, Roman versus Solo. They're trying to do different matches to set up for Hell in a Cell matches because when you
Right.
get to that point that once all these matches are going to be done after this pay per view, everything's going to set up well going into Survivor Series. Because when you get into Survivor Series, now you're looking at like how am I going to set up all these group matches for 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 heading into Survivor Series. You know what I'm saying? So
I said in my short earlier, I said obviously Roman Reigns and in the night, um, and attack, try to,
right. So here's what I'm thinking, and I think that this might play out really well. So since SmackDown's going to right, well since SmackDown's going to be going to USA next week, I was thinking maybe Jimmy Uso can return on the very first episode of USA Network to vie for like the ratings. So that way the ratings can come up. So that way they're not just doing the same crap weekly in and weekly out before the pay per view. So if you want to make a big
yeah,
splash, you gotta bring somebody back to get their ratings going. Just because it's back on USA, you had to make that big splash heading into the pay per view. So instead of waiting till like the week before the pay per view to bring him back, give him a couple weeks to come back. So that way it builds up into because after this pay per view is done, you're gonna head right into Survivor Series the following month, and you want to be able to build the next couple weeks because now you're gonna have Jey Uso come back to SmackDown, and hopefully, and I don't know if it's gonna be true. Maybe if Sami Zayn comes back to the Bloodline, now everybody's gonna be on one show again, so they can buy with the Bloodline.
yeah. Well, that's what Roman Reigns,
Well,
the bloodline. I think that
here's my question. Do you set up a Sami Zayn run at the world title, or do you wait for him next year next year, probably by like early as in like February before Mania, to like give him a world title shot. Let him win it the one week and then lose it the next. That way, like at least he had his like moment in the sun with the world title. Because do you really see him holding the title for more than 2 or 3 months? I mean,
Now you could tell the
yep.
for the
Right. No, well, the only good thing is I I feel like them throwing this story in makes it more better for them to build upon for the rest of the year because after I think after Survivor. I'm so sorry, you guys. But the service here at Wally World is very sucky ass gay. So, but for them to have this storyline head all the way into December is going to be good because they want to end this whole bloodline storyline after Survivor Series. Because I can't see them going any more further than WrestleMania next year. Because if they go towards eh, eh? if they go towards WrestleMania 41, go ahead. Like I feel like them going into Survivor Series is going to be great because the storyline's been vying now for the last 6 months, and since Roman's been back, they're trying to keep things on a low bound because they want to see if Roman can take on the whole bloodline by himself. And when
yeah
he does need the help, he's going to go and ask his cousins to help him out because now you're looking at a 3-on-4. And then once you have that last person, are they going to get another cousin out of the family or are they going to bring back Sami Zayn, and see if they can, and if Jey Uso brings Sami Zayn with him over from Raw, now you're talking like we're having a 4-on-4 match at Survivor Series at War Games. And unificate the tag titles. Now, I you, you know you brought up a good point because I just had a thought in my head where they could do a unification title match either at maybe at Bad Blood if it happens before the next couple weeks, or what could happen is maybe the unification title match the night before Survivor Series, so that way when they go into War Games, they can unify the tag titles the night before, so they go into Survivor Series that weekend, they can still do War Games. Because if you're doing the unification tag title match on the pay per view night, then you're like you said, then you're eliminating the possibility of them trying to fight that night. And you don't want to regret doing that because now you're gonna eliminate what 4 guys out of the 8 guys that are wrestling in that match, and now you're gonna only take out the four guys out of it. So now you have 4 guys left standing. So now you have Roman, Sammy, Solo, and the other guy. So it just defeats the purpose. You know,
She's doing a great job. She just doesn't know she's doing a great job. And the problem is, no matter how much you tell her,
it just defeats the purpose because you also uh, I'm frozen. I'm frozen. All right, can you hear me now? All right, can you hear me now? Let's see if I go inside. God, goddamn Wally World.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right, there you go. So I'm sorry. Say,
Oh, now
say that
you're
again.
out of one.
All right, say it again. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So, I mean, there may be little puzzle pieces from what, again, JD, he said that WWE,
Right, right. Well, the only good.
like 5 6 hours ahead of time. So yeah, that's
So
yeah.
if we're
I
so if
mean,
we're looking so if we're looking at Saudi Arabia's timing right now, so the timing right
so that
now
would
would
be a
be
one
like
p. That
five,
would be
like
a one.
six, seven
That would
o'clock over there now.
yeah. That would be a
Right.
day for a work day. So it'll probably be a tape show, but I'm sure the crowd will come out, probably pretty lively. and then we're gonna start building towards SummerSlam. But enough with the bloodline for now. From what I saw for the recap of Raw for SmackDown, I'm sorry, for next week, Kevin Owens and a mysterious partner is going to team up with against the A-Town Down. I said on my short that it's going to be Randy Orton is coming back. And again, JD from NY said um, Randy Orton's going to see, this is what he said, Randy Orton's going to see that Kevin Owens could not take out the leg from Cody Rhodes, even though he knew, if he took out his knee, he would have won the match for the title, but he did not do that. So Orton's going to see KO is weak. He's going to beat up KO, turn on KO, turn heel, and then go after Cody for the title. He could betray KO next Friday, and we could get the inkling of Orton, and his next steps going into the following Friday. But the heel turn could happen next Friday. What are your thoughts?
So the whole Cody situation is by follows. Like they could do. So it's really tough because we've already seen Kevin Owens and Randy Orton as a heel
Yeah.
together, and when you look at both guys trying to vie for the title match, who stands
Yeah.
out more? Who stands out more? Who stands out more going after the title? Because you can't really sigh on the fact that like both guys would be baby faces going into the match. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like putting Cody versus Roman right now as two baby faces, like two guys at the head of the table. And the only thing is that you could see is which person out of the two between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton do you put as the heel against Cody Rhodes? My opinion about it, I definitely would hook up with Orton because Orton makes more sense going after Cody because of their first of all their legacy from back in
Right.
2009. But if you put Kevin
Yes.
Owens against him, now you're looking at both friends going back into the independent scene. From what 20 something years ago. And you don't want that. You want the guy that had more impact on Cody's life, and you want to put Randy Orton against him.
And they had a video package a couple weeks ago of Kevin Owens betraying his friends. It's going to turn back around on him. Orton's going to betray KO. That's how we get that heel turn.
So the good thing is that I could definitely see if there's gonna be a heel turn between Orton
Yeah.
or Owens. I kind of want to see like now people are always saying like you know like kind of like in the Royal Rumble, like some people like turn on each other, they throw each other out, and that's how they get the whole heel turn thing going. But if you want to see an actual like heel turn, it's kind of like what Orton did to Edge back in 2001 or 2021, and you got to see why that
I
happened. Like
remember that.
when you see how that whole thing deflected, and you see how Orton really wanted to be Edge's tag team partner again, but then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, hits him with the RKO and just starts beating the crap out of him with his steel chair. So how can we turn this whole KO Randy Orton situation the same way it happened 3 years ago when Orton went heel? How can we do that 3 years later? How can we set that whole thing up?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
because
remember. I remember when Orton turned on Edge back in 2021. That was really cool. I also enjoyed that the empty performance center match. A lot of people didn't like it. I mean, was it the greatest match of all time? No, it wasn't. But I like the environment. Obviously, the feud called for an empty stadium, empty arena match. They could do whatever they wanted. Um, And I think ultimately Randy got the victory by punting Edge on the top of a trailer, right?
Yep.
Or yeah, yeah, that was cool.
The good thing I'm going to tell you is watching the last man standing match between them two, like kind of gave me ideas of what they could do from 3 years ahead. And could they do the same thing that happened 3 years ago, where they could pit Kevin
Yeah.
Owens and Orton against each other for a couple matches just to give people something different to look at. But then again, like, do you feel like Cody's gonna try to get involved in the match, and then it's gonna turn into a triple threat match? Because maybe they possibly could do that too. Cody can probably get in the way of both of them and try to separate them both. So then, what do? Do you do all baby faces all in the ring at once, and then Orton just turns heel on both of them? Because
I mean, you could do that. Like, Cody, Kevin, and Randy are in Randy Orton, the Lobos, Cody, and then that heel turn. Well, then again, if you do, what I stated earlier with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton in the tag team match against AJ Down during Kevin Owens, it's kind of predicted that, oh, okay, so it looks like Randy's turning heel. Who's he going to go after? Cody Rhodes. So people are going to be looking at and thinking that Orton's going to come out. Remember when the cage was lowering and Rollins was like, I'm going to. Cage was lowering. Randy Orton slid in. Rollins had no idea. And
yes, sir.
in my short, Roman Reigns is like Batman in the night. He's going to strike when he wants to. And it's like you don't even know it's coming. And kind of in it for himself. He knows Cody's the champion, but the Ula follows the story with him. He wants it back.
Right.
So
Right.
Cody's not a Roman's Ula Fala necklace he wants. So that's Roman's story with the whole bloodline. Cody's future, but right now it's different with different. It's personal with the bloodline for him because Solo Sikoa.
Right. Right.
Rock did state, I believe, the Raw after Mania that he's going after Cody for the have it, and they exchanged titles. But I mean, it built up here, and eventually, who's Cody going to face? The room
So so I kind of had an idea where they could do Cody versus Rock at Mania this year instead of doing having the Rock fight on 2 nights next year. I think what you should do is do Cody versus Rock for the title, and then once it gets to like after WrestleMania, I could possibly either do Roman versus The Rock at SummerSlam, or do The Rock and Roman next year at WrestleMania. For I mean, it doesn't even have to be for the title, but if they want to put the belt back on Roman, I would do it at SummerSlam
Right.
and let him drop it right before WrestleMania next year, so Rock and him can fight 1-on-1 at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Now you mentioned SummerSlam. WWE, I believe, is going to be in Indianapolis for SummerSlam to the 2026. It's going to be a 2 night SummerSlam. I know this is 2 years away, but what do you like? Where do you see the future of stories, including the Bloodline and Cody and everybody? Where do you see that playing out for SummerSlam 2026 with a 2 night SummerSlam? Do you see them doing a match where the first night will predict the second night, or will the first show bleed into the second show, or will it be its own separate show, and nothing will bleed? I mean, nothing will bleed into anything. It'll be two separate pay per views, but back to back nights. Um, where do you see WWE going as far as strategy with that? I mean, because it kind of worked out with 40. I mean, you were there in person for night one, so there was the tag match, and that match indicated what the second night would be for the one on one match. Do you see WWE doing that for SummerSlam in 2026?
Sorry, guys. So what I could think of them doing for 2026 SummerSlam, maybe doing night one could be the Raw show, so that way all the Raw matches could be on night one, and then night
Yeah,
two could be a SmackDown show where somebody from Raw deflects and goes into night two and goes into the championship match and beats up on somebody. So, and I think
yeah,
that would make more sense because you don't want to just have, like I said, you don't want to just have like eight some matches one night, eight matches or seven matches the next night. Where okay, well we need to have a big surprise. Somebody's got to make a big splash for night two.
right.
So because we always like you said, WrestleMania night one from the last couple of years has always been the better show than night two. We
Hmm.
gotta have like that big night two from either pay per view, like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, or something, where like we need somebody to
Yeah,
have a big surprise to come in here and knock everybody off their feet. Like, hey man, like oh my god, that was freaking cool. I wish this happens like every freaking night during a pay per view. You know, um, thing of Braves.
what else? Well, we could also talk about this.
You playing
Um,
too much.
I mean, it's going to be short because we really know nothing. I mean, Netflix, they announced the Vince McMahon documentary starting September 25th. The trailer dropped 4 days ago. I think
The
it's a
trailer dropped.
short.
The trailer dropped like the very last week of August. Yep.
As a businessman, is genius. Like he created the WWE network. He created like the streaming service, and now the stream from Vince. growing up, and they're going to talk about, obviously steroid use that happened in 2007.
You know,
And then, obviously Vince McMahon wanting to eventually company to TKO. And here's another topic, um, that that um, because TKO is now, WWE property. Uh, WWE is now TKO's property. The rumor is that WWE will eventually move the Performance Center to Las Vegas. But we're talking about Vince McMahon here, but that was kind of a segue into that. Um, and where the company is now, bringing Triple H into the family and making him part of corporate, and now he's part of creative. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better, create, a better person to take over the reins than Triple H, because he's been in the shoes of the wrestlers. He knows what it takes to, have a great story. And Triple H said this himself, like, we are not, we're a movie about professional wrestling. I've always said, when I started watching wrestling in 2001, I believe my first pay per view was WWF Invasion. Um, and then I remember watching WWE One Night Stand in Florida. I was on family vacation. That was such a good pay per view. But he said, we are a movie about professional wrestling. I've always said that WWE is like a soap opera. You want to keep watching what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen the week after. Where does this, what it's all about story, and people didn't grasp that. But this whole bloodline story with Roman turning heel and then recruiting his family into the bloodline, and now the bloodline turning into something else. It's been a great story. Obviously, Paul Heyman out of the mix. Well, that's another thing for next week. Do we see Paul Heyman back? I
uh,
mean, yeah.
so the good thing about leaving Paul Heyman off TV for a while was because they want to figure out if the crowd was going to be right behind Roman Reigns the whole time he came back, and if they want to re-put back the old bloodline, the famous like old glory bloodline, the old fashioned original bloodline, they want to keep everybody off TV. So like you take Jimmy off TV. That's the first person. Then you go after the manager, which is great, because then you don't want to have to sit there and wait another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, where it comes to getting people off TV, and then you're like, okay, well, my other brother is on my other show. Well, how the hell we get these two guys back over here to SmackDown since we're all separated? So now it's gonna vie for, well, like you said, Sammy and Jey Uso are winning the tag titles. So if they win the tag titles and the Tamatongas have the tag titles, how do we get them both together in the ring? Together. Do we do it at Crown Jewel? Do we do this at Survivor Series? How do we how do we put this all together so that way when we do have our War Games match, how do we put this all together before everybody else comes back? Because one thing's got to lead to another, heading into either Blood Blood, Crown Jewel, or going into Survivor Series. And I think now, like you said, we could possibly have Paul Heyman show up at first, just so he says, you know what, maybe, and actually, you know what, man, I gotta be honest with you. So I've heard a lot of rumors. Yeah, it just started raining over here. So I heard a lot of rumors that Paul Heyman might have Brock Lesnar come back, and he could have Brock Lesnar team up with Roman Reigns to take down the Bloodline. Which was another scenario they could possibly go into. And I thought that might have been a genius idea.
Another
So
Roman and Brock match. Well, that would, what is this, custody of Paul
no,
Heyman?
well, so, but apparently they want to bring Brock Lesnar back to make him side with Roman Reigns so they could take down the Bloodline together. Because I think if Paul Heyman goes back into his bag of tricks and says, you know what, I got somebody that you probably can have a tag team partner with, and he brings out Brock Lesnar, and everybody thinks it's Jimmy Uso, but it's not Jimmy Uso, it's Brock Lesnar. So who else other than the Usos and Sami Zayn could take down the Bloodline with Roman Reigns? And you got to think to yourself,
Paul Heyman on a pole. Oh man.
or put
Anyway,
him in a shark
go ahead.
cage.
Oh man.
Oh man, put him in a shark cage. Leave him there for a while. Oh man, but yeah, I see a lot of rumors floating around. I think having Brock Lesnar come back to help Roman with the Bloodline, I think it'd be a lot easier right now, just so they can slow them down a little bit until Jimmy comes back, until Jay and Sammy come over to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So could we see a tag team match at Bad Blood and a Hell in a Cell match with like Jacob Fatu and Solo versus Roman and Brock? I mean, could we see that?
Well, I honestly think the Jey Uso, the Jacob Fatu and Brock Lesnar standoff that would be pretty cool.
I mean, even just throwing Brock Lesnar versus Jacob Fatu in a match. I mean, they could do solo matches between each other, but like, how is this all gonna? Like I said to you, how is this all gonna come around when we get to War Games going into Survivor Series? You know, do we see Jay and Jimmy get together before Bad Blood? Do we see them get together before Crown Jewel? Because you got to think about it, it's gonna be a month before we get into November. Because once we get into November, now you're talking 3 weeks prior to the Survivor Series. So in those 3 weeks, how are we gonna get this whole group together before we go into Survivor Series? Because we cannot wait until the last very week of Thanksgiving, and we're like literally going into Thanksgiving weekend, and everybody's just gonna show up on one night, and then we get into Survivor Series the next night. It's like, oh well, this should have been planned out a long time ago. This should have been planned out a long time ago. You know, because you can't just surprise everybody all in one night, like when Orton did last year and Punk did last year at Survivor Series. You can't just have both guys come back in the same night and surprise everybody. You know, because if you remember, Triple H was telling Orton that we want you to come back and be part of the War Games match, but then he also told Orton that we're
Right.
so we want this whole storyline to be avouched by after Bad Blood, because we got to think about it. We're only 2 weeks away from Bad Blood, so somehow or some way, Roman Reigns is going to have to like figure out a way to pull his cousins into this storyline again. And once we get to the pay-per-view, Now you're looking at into a month in the Crown Jewel. Now you're looking at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view. What do we do there? Do we do the tag team title match, the unification match then? If so, if we do the title match, then how is it going to vibe for when we do the War Games and Survivor Series? Because, like I said, once we get to Survivor Series, we got to have all 4 guys in War Games. Between both sides. You know what I'm saying? So even like if they were to do like I said, even if they were to do like a tag. So even if we were to do like a tag team match at Bad Blood with like Roman and Brock versus Solo and Jacob Fatu, just give get Lesnar like one shot to do a pay-per-view match with Roman. So that way when he does that one match, we don't need Lesnar anymore. We can bring the other guys in here.
True.
Because if you want to slow the bloodline down, you gotta like at least bring somebody else to help Roman out big wise to slow the bloodline down for a while until they can bring back Jimmy, Jay, and Sammy. But yet again, at what cost? What cost do you do to what do you do if they do bring Brock Lesnar back? What do they make him do to try to side himself with Roman Reigns? What do they try to do? You know what I'm saying? Like there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way where they can try to say, "Hey, Brock, we need you right now." Or Heyman goes to Brock Lesnar and goes, "Hey, man, we need you right now. We can't afford to lose this big battle between the bloodline. Can you help us?" And Brock tells Heyman no because of the history between him and Roman. And Roman Reigns comes in and says, "I'll put my differences aside for one night only if you come fight with me against the bloodline." And I think it'd be better for him to do that because that way it shows that Brock's interested in trying to go after the bloodline. Like that heel turn again from Brock, where he turns Roman at the end of the night. It's different plotting. You gotta see where the plots are gonna hit once it comes to those kind of things. You know what I mean? So I mean, but the good thing is we're still everybody's still interested in the whole storyline. I feel like everybody's getting intruded into the whole scenario, which is going to play out very well. I'm hoping into WrestleMania next year. So, I mean, it's gonna be a good time for them to figure everything out within the next 2 months before Survivor Series. So we're gonna find out within the next couple weeks, find out how they play this one out. But my good scenario would have been, let's do this whole thing where we bring Brock Lesnar in, and Paul Heyman talks to Brock Lesnar and says, "Hey, I really need you to. I really need your help. Can you please help the tribal chief?" And Brock tells Heyman no because my history with Roman Reigns. Like I'm not doing it. So now you bring in Roman Reigns into the locker room. I'll put my differences aside for one night only if you fight and sign with me for one night only.
Yeah.
And then what do we do? Bad Blood. You do a tag team match. Now, depending on if they do the Hell in a Cell match between maybe Solo, Jacob, Brock, and Roman, Now you're looking at, if they do the Hell in a Cell match, do you turn Brock Lesnar against Roman after the match is over? Because then at that point, you don't want to have another Roman Brock match after that. You don't want it.
Mm-mm.
So what they could do is they can take the bloodline down, and Brock Lesnar goes away again. So then when Brock comes back next year, so he can fight at WrestleMania, so him and Gunther could fight next year at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Because like I was thinking about them fighting in Minnesota for WrestleMania, but then the thing is, it's like I don't want Brock to retire in Minnesota. Like I want him to retire when like he's had enough fighting. He's beaten everybody on the roster. Like if the
Right.
only person he's got to fight is Gunther, like I'd rather that match happen so that way it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Like somebody left a comment. Somebody left a comment the other night when I was talking on my shorts, and I said something about like Gunther. It was something like Gunther and Sami Zayn were having their promo, and somebody left a comment saying, "Oh, well, they should do a Gunther Goldberg match at SummerSlam next year."
No.
No, I said no, no. You
No.
got to look at
No.
it this way. If you're gonna set up the things right, you gotta set up the way it's supposed to be. Because right now, we already know Gunther's not keeping the title for another 2-3 years. We're not doing that anymore. He's only keeping the world title until Seth Rollins comes back. Once Seth Rollins comes back, Seth Rollins is gonna take the title off of Gunther.
And then
And then he goes into WrestleMania and him and Punk fight for the world title. That's the match that happens.
exactly, yes.
So
Therefore, Punk gets his WrestleMania moment and wins the title from Rollins.
CM Punk gets his world title match against Rollins. And then going in from there,
Yeah.
when Punk beats Rollins, then maybe at SummerSlam, this was my take, and I think it's still my stand. I think we get Randy Orton versus CM Punk at SummerSlam, because as much as I like that match at WrestleMania between the two of them, I would love to see it one more time, just for old time's sake, for the world title, just so we get Orton versus CM Punk. So that way, when Punk does retire, he's going to go through the whole roster and Punk's going to be done.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know,
So, do you think Punk will do, I believe, what LA Knight is doing with the Open Challenge? Do you think Punk will
yes,
do that?
yes, yes.
Do you think
And
Braun Breaker will step up, even though he's well, at that point, if Braun Breaker loses the Intercontinental Championship, um, maybe to Sheamus, because Sheamus has never won the Intercontinental Championship, so maybe Braun Breaker steps up to Punk.
so, I think they could. I think next year's Money in the Bank, I think they could do Braun Breaker and Punk if Punk is champion by then.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, going into SummerSlam, I could probably see Orton and Punk going at it for the world
Yeah,
title.
yeah, they could do another Summer of Punk, literally. Um, that's been the ongoing thing with WWE ever since Punk's been in the company.
And
Every
and you got
when
and
he
you got to
first
look at it,
started.
at it this way. When they fought the first time, Orton was the babyface and Punk was the bad guy. So they could rotate this thing around and let CM Punk be the good guy and let Orton play heel at the time. So that way, like, and this is gonna be my question to you, and I want you to think about this for a second.
Yeah.
If you really want Orton to make a run for the title, for any title, even if it's like the Intercontinental or whatever title, could you see him retire as a heel?
I could. I mean that's his best. That's Randy's bread and butter. I mean, he enjoyed. I enjoyed what he did with Evolution. Obviously, he was heel coming in, but coming out when he won the world title, he was a face because Triple H and everybody turned on him. He's a good face, but dude, his 2009 run when he was a heel, that was almost perfection. He's just so good as a heel. Him and Kevin Owens. Now Kevin Owens can play both sides. He can play great as a a babyface and great as a heel. Orton, I mean, he plays a good heel, but I feel it's like you really can't tell if if he's a face because he could always turn on you and become a heel. He he tries to play the face, but he's just better as a heel, in my opinion. He's gonna retire as a heel for sure.
So, because there's been a lot of speculation of what they should do with Orton before he retires. Do they keep him as a babyface and win the world title and go like? Because people are saying like, if he's gonna stick around for a couple more years, does he break Flair's record? Does he before John Cena breaks Flair's record? And the only person I can definitely see breaking Flair's record is John Cena because he's only one away from breaking it.
Well, you got to
So
think. Yeah, you also got to think about the history that Orton and Ric Flair had with Legacy, and kind of that protege that Ric Flair wanted Randy to be, and he's on his way to being that. Definitely first ballot Hall of Famer. Ever since Randy debuted in 2002, I've been a fan of his. I've been a fan of Cena's. But it's really hard because if I were to choose between John Cena and Randy Orton, I choose both in their different respects. But if I were to choose one, it would definitely be Randy Orton. He definitely has had the better stories throughout his career, and he's still going at his age, which I respect greatly.
now they also had talked about uh them trying to do a Randy Orton John Cena match going to WrestleMania next year. I've been reading on rumor speculations are saying on different websites saying we are definitely gonna hopefully getting an Orton Cena match for Cena's retirement tour match going to
Right.
WrestleMania next year.
Yeah.
If that does happen, do we put a world title on a line between the two of them? Do we do
Well,
a title versus career match, or do we just do a regular title match and let Cena retire when he's ready to retire?
what did we talk about in North Carolina when I was in North Carolina? What did we talk about on the phone?
So, so we definitely said that maybe what we could do is if they do a career versus title match between Orton and Cena, I think it'd be best if they would just say, hey, look, we can't do a career versus career match because we're not ready to retire yet. So even if that was the case and Orton it was champion, like it's kind of like putting when Ric Flair did his whole career on the line going to WrestleMania before he fought Shawn Michaels.
Right.
They could say every match you fight, you're putting your career on the line. So
Right.
every time you get up, so what maybe what Cena could do is do what he did when Flair did. Go every match with your career on the line, so that
Right.
when you get to that last match, you're completely done. That's it. That's your last match.
Yes, but we also talked about where does WWE start with that?
So,
If they start, it's it's right there in January.
so
What's
if they start,
what's
so if they
happening?
start, if they start the Royal Rumble, if they start the Royal Rumble, and somebody maybe either Adam Pierce or I'm trying to think of the other guy's name on SmackDown. The other general manager on SmackDown.
Like all this,
So Nick Aldis, they could both get in the room together with Cena and say, you know what? Here, you want to have a retirement tour? You start the Royal Rumble. Anytime you lose a match, your career's done. So what does Cena do? Cena goes on starts the winning streak.
right?
So instead of losing a match like at the Royal Rumble, he goes and wins the Rumble.
Right.
Or what they could,
Right.
or,
But when does we also talked about this? When does John announce he's going into the Rumble? What's happening January 6th?
Netflix,
Right.
so Monday Night Raw is going to Netflix on
Right.
January 6th.
Yep.
So what they could do is have Cena come out and announce he's going into the Royal Rumble. That brings out Nick Aldis and Adam Pierce. They both come out and say, "You lose one match, Royal Rumble or anything this whole year, and you're completely done. Your career's
Yep.
done."
Hmm.
So he'll tell them, and Cena tells them both, like, "I will never lose. This is not my time to be finished yet." So he goes on a winning streak. He wins the Rumble. He wins the match at Elimination Chamber. He goes into WrestleMania. Whoever he fights for the championship wins that, and he'll probably go all the way through the year because he's supposedly going through the whole year before December next year. So I'm hoping by Survivor Series of next year, the only person they're saying is going to fight Cena to end his career is Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the only guy that's going to beat John Cena one more time to end his career.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. John Cena has never beaten Roman Reigns.
Do you see another John Cena versus AJ Styles match again?
Yes.
I definitely see another John Cena CM Punk match. Punk wants it. I would love to see that. As far as story goes, we'll see where that goes. But I personally would love to see a heel, um, LA Knight versus a face John Cena. The mic work between those two would be great.
I think having Cena in matches where like he can be on the microphone with a lot of guys that are have really good mic skills.
Yeah.
Would play out really well, like what John Cena did with The Miz, John Cena did with CM Punk, John Cena did with Randy Orton. These are guys that he likes working with because of the mic skills they have in the ring, the promos, backstage segments, everything. It's got to work out for his sake because even though their wrestling styles are not what it's supposed to be, even though the matches are getting better, like when we saw with AJ Styles versus Cena at the Rumble in 17, you got to look at the finish, the way the match was set up for Cena to win his number 16. That match was probably his best match against AJ Styles throughout the whole year of 17. And you got to look at the way he was set up because when he was going into WrestleMania that year, we all thought he was going into WrestleMania as champion. But no, he went in the Elimination Chamber and lost, and Bray Wyatt won the title.
Yep.
So now my understanding, I really was thinking about this. Could they have done John Cena versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 33? Because even though the Orton Bray Wyatt at the time, the storyline was getting better because they wanted to pull Orton away from the Wyatt family at the time. And that's probably why they set up that match. But could you have seen like Cena and Bray Wyatt at the time? So Bray Wyatt could have beaten Cena at WrestleMania for the title, just so Bray Wyatt would have his moment throughout the year, having the title with him for a couple of months.
Yeah, I could have seen it, but as far as where WWE was going with storyline at the time, Randy Orton was the focus. He ended up joining the Wyatt family, and before we knew it, he betrayed them and wanted to go after the title. But going to when Cena was facing Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30, I thought it was a really bad call that John Cena won that match at 30. Bray Wyatt should have won that match. Because of how dominant Bray was to Cena, ganging up on him with the sheeps and everything. And John Cena shows up with the sheep mask behind Bray Wyatt, all pissed off, and then starts beating him up. I think it was a missed opportunity there for, Bray Wyatt winning. Because if you think about it, when Bray Wyatt first John Cena and Randy Orton at WrestleMania, Bray Wyatt lost. He lost to Randy twice. And not because of, well, one because of Alexa Bliss. I was there in attendance at in Orlando. Alexa Bliss basically betrayed Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, and then Randy Orton ended up beating him. Sadly, it was Bray's last WrestleMania. Rest in peace. But yeah, I mean, he was definitely the future. I remember for Raw 30. Remember when Undertaker came out and then Bray came out, or vice versa, and Bray was like, it was kind of a passing of the torch moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna like this. So I have a list. I made a list over last weekend, and I did my thinking with John Cena's retirement tour.
Yeah.
So these are the guys John Cena's gonna be fighting.
What happened? You froze again.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting John Cena versus Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
We're getting John Cena versus Gunther.
Okay.
We're getting John Cena versus LA Knight. we're getting John Cena versus AJ Styles, and we're getting John Cena versus CM Punk. So, and we're definitely getting one more match between John Cena and The Rock, because if you remember at WrestleMania last year when they faced off in the ring, I really felt like, I mean, can I really see one more match between them? Maybe like a 15 to 20-minute match, just to like give the fans one last hurrah for when Cena retires.
Well, that was just the thing. Going back from like the story, Cena was helping Cody with the bloodline, and here's the leader of the new bloodline, The Rock. I mean,
Um,
but then again, you could also say to yourself, well, no, because Undertaker's retired, so you can knock that match off.
right,
But I thought that was a really cool moment with Undertaker coming out and choke slamming The Rock.
right. I mean, like if we had heard the glass shatter throughout the whole stadium,
Oh man, that would have been so cool.
the the roof would have just like went off, and nobody would have understood like why Austin would be coming out, because we were
Stadium,
gonna finally get that last moment between
the,
the two of them.
the stadium didn't have a roof, but I understand what you're saying there. Yeah, for sure. If it had a roof, it would have been blown off. I get. Yeah,
Like what we would have gotten to the point where like we're getting one last face off between The Rock and Austin, because
yeah,
like we weren't really gonna get one more match between the two, only because they're
right,
getting older. But the problem is, can we get one last face off from the two of them? Because Austin or Rock had said, and
right.
I quote, this was back at the Hall of Fame when he was inducting his dad in the Hall of Fame. He said everybody wanted that one last match between Austin and Rock. They wanted one more match, because even though they fought 3 times at WrestleMania, could we see one more like send off match between the two of them? Because you know how else are you gonna send these two off underneath the
Right.
lights? Because Austin retired 20 something years ago, and we don't know like how good his health was in the ring. When he came back to fight Kevin Owens, and they gave us a 20-minute match, I
Yeah.
kind of thought maybe Austin and Rock could go 20 minutes and see how well it went. You
Well,
know,
you saw how great The Rock did. He had a ring sent to his home in Hawaii, and he trained for 15 weeks. I
I
mean,
mean,
you were there in attendance. You saw how was The Rock moving in the ring?
like the way he moved so well that I thought he could do another match, at least maybe one or two more matches, and then be done.
Yeah.
You know, I just really thought that maybe do we get like, because think about it, Rock's not in the Hall of Fame yet, so could we see maybe one or two more matches before he calls it quits? I feel like we do get that.
Dude, it's kind of funny. I really, really wish sometimes that Triple H is not retired, but my dad has the same problem with his heart. He had a replaced heart valve in 2011, and then again, it cut like 2 months ago. So my dad has the same problem. So I understand, health is very important. But me being a selfish fan, like I kind of wish that Triple H was still in the ring because, dude, like if you remember that face off at the press conference, Rock and Triple H faced off. Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
So
The anniversary SmackDown. Yep, I remember.
yeah. So you could have you could have had some sort of stipulation there or a match there. But then again, health is very important to an individual. So yeah, I understand why that match is not happening, but we can only dream as fans. But it's not going to happen. For the reasons being given.
I mean, if you look at it this way, I mean, between Triple H and The Rock, I kind of like the way their promos are always set up, even though they're older now, because their ring work and mic work is so great that I can listen to them talk on the microphone all day long.
Yeah.
And could we see another match between Hunter and Rock? Maybe, but with the way Triple H's body's taking a toll right now, I don't think he can go at least another match, especially because of his heart conditions.
Could we see The Rock and Triple H do a mic promo work? Yes.
Yes,
Yes, we.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
If you remember back at, I think it was the WrestleMania press conference.
If sorry to cut you off. If WWE does decide to do that, um, it's it's going to go against what Triple H said he's going to do. He can't afford to take a bump. Someone needs to take the bump for him, and that bump would be in the hands of maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin. He comes back, and with the blood, help out against the leader of the bloodline being The Rock. But Triple H cannot take a bump. Someone else has to take the bump for him.
So Triple H goes in the back of his pocket and say, "Look, I might not be able to wrestle anymore, but I do have somebody that definitely wants to face you the one last time."
Yeah. Yep.
And then all of a sudden the glass
And
shatters, and then
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
goes into a frenzy.
Oh man. Uh well,
Like
there is a rumor that because WrestleMania is in Vegas next year, Stone Cold has a ranch in Nevada.
in Nevada.
Yeah, he's considering. But then again, like there's the rumor swirling of um, Punk versus Rollins. But if or sorry, Punk versus Austin. But if Punk wants to have that WrestleMania main event, it has to be against Rollins for the title. So yeah, we'll see where they go. Um, well, here's the thing. We just talked about the rumor of Cody versus The Rock at WrestleMania. So you realistically could have Stone Cold show up next year at WrestleMania and face off against The Rock.
I
Right.
mean, since we are doing a 2-day event again,
Right.
I feel like it it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen at some point. I feel like it's gonna be now or never. So like, if you try to get Austin to do like another WrestleMania within the next couple of years, I think he's just gonna say no, just only because of his age now,
Right.
and because like, how many more matches can you have with him if he's taking these kind of bumps for 20 something minutes for one night only, And I feel like having him and The Rock go one last time would
Right.
be, a perfect sending for The Rock to like maybe retire, because I feel like Rock's career kind of all started with Austin, and you got to think for yourself, how is The
Yeah.
Rock going to be put in the Hall of Fame? If
Yes.
Rock, go ahead.
I was going to say I never knew how The Rock's feud with Austin started. Then I watched the documentary, The Rivalries. It started when The Rock was in the Nation of Domination,
When he
and
was in the
Rock.
Nation of Domination,
Yeah.
when Austin was Intercontinental Champion at the time,
Yeah.
uh, Rock wanted to be the next star, wanted to be the big star at the time.
Right.
So when he took over Farouk's spot, he said, "I want to be the next champion. Whatever champion it is, I want to be the next champion." So what did he do? He go after the biggest guy in the company. And Austin at that time, even though he just beat Owen Hart, he wanted to be the next Intercontinental Champion.
Okay.
So now, for a whole year now, they were trying to keep themselves away from each other for a whole year. So you go through the whole '98 era, the whole year, and they kept themselves away from each other. They didn't face each other not even one time. Once they got to the Rumble '99, and Austin helped Vince win the Rumble, now we knew why they
Mm.
separated each other, just so we could have that next match between the two of them for the world title. So even though at that time we were still getting a world title match between The Rock and Austin, we were still waiting for that one big moment where, hey, are they fighting at WrestleMania? Because
Right.
we're not going to be waiting here 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and seeing why they're not wrestling at WrestleMania yet. If they're going
Yeah.
to WrestleMania, they got to do it early, because that way, when they do another match at Mania, they could wait another couple of years, just so like when Austin got hurt, they could wait another year, and then when Austin comes back, they're going to do another match, which was
Yeah.
perfect. I thought that was so perfect the way they
Yeah.
ended that off.
Speaking of perfect, I'm gonna go over two things with you. So I was at the Royal Rumble in January, and CM Punk came out. I was so excited. I put it up on my channel of CM Punk's entrance. I was so excited. When Drew McIntyre came out, Drew McIntyre ended up DDTing CM Punk. Punk ended up getting injured. I had no idea. I wasn't paying attention. I was focused on the match itself. I had no idea Punk was injured. Who knew that mistake, led to one of the greatest rivalries that WWE is doing right now, and another rivalry, Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Both these matches are going into Bad Blood, no doubt. Rhea was not supposed to lose that title, but Liv Morgan hitting Rhea Ripley with the chair, and Rhea Ripley being out for 3 months. They called an audible for that. They ended up giving the title to Becky and then giving it to Liv. That's another great story to tell. Like, as far as these mistakes turning into dream matches, like, and great feuds. I mean, it just, for the future of, stories and what's going to be told, you just don't know what you got, and something could spark and be like, hey, this is the way to go. So at any given time, I'm saying this because, you could say, oh, we could get this, we could get that, but when a feud when you know when a feud builds unexpectedly like that, that's when that's when the great feuds happen. um
Right.
yeah, and I want to get to the two matches I just mentioned. As far as Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, we know Rhea Ripley is getting back her title by Bad Blood, and the rubber match between Punk and McIntyre. Punk is winning that match. He did state in an exclusive, which I mentioned on my Backlash or my Bash in Berlin mini review. Punk said he's going after the gold. McIntyre is no longer an issue. He then on Raw said, "Gunther, I'm coming after you." Do we see Punk going after Gunther after his Bad Blood um, conclusion with McIntyre? And when do you see that match happening? And what's the outcome?
Well, I do see that this feud between McIntyre and CM Punk is not officially over because we are definitely getting one more match heading into Bad Blood. And we're definitely getting a Hell in a Cell match because if you noticed on Raw, Drew McIntyre went back after CM Punk after he made that stupid segment, the promo segment between him
Yeah,
and McIntyre. And I think breaking the bracelet was kind of like the icing on the cake.
yeah.
So now, like you said, now we're definitely getting the final stage of a Hell in a Cell match between the two of them.
And it's
But
funny
to
because
your,
it's
but
been 27 years since I didn't even know this. I didn't even watch Red WWF at the time. Did you watch Bad Blood in '97?
yes, I did.
And what match was it? What was that match?
So it was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker heading into the Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah. So do you remember the story behind that match?
So what led to the story itself was from SummerSlam.
Hmm.
If you remember this year's Punk and McIntyre match,
Yeah.
they were so if you watch their ring attire, CM Punk wore Bret Hart like attire, like on his clothes. He wore the pink and black tights.
Oh,
McIntyre wore the Undertaker's like trench coat thing that he wears to the ring.
interesting.
So so now Seth Rollins was the referee. So he was the Shawn Michaels of
Oh,
the referee thing, if
oh
you remember. So
no, I didn't watch during that time.
so I bro, you have to like go back when we watch these things in '97 because it just
Summer
really takes you
SummerSlam
back
'97
1997
of SummerSlam.
of SummerSlam.
Okay.
When Austin broke his neck against Owen, you have I think the world title was after wait. No, they had what was it? No, yeah. It was LOD. No, it was Shamrock and Bulldog, and then they did Taker versus Brett after that. So because they want to give Austin time to like recuperate with his neck. So when they went into Ground Zero '97 the next month,
Hmm.
they did Taker versus Shawn again. But this led to a no contest because they kept fighting each other, they kept beating up on the referees,
Oh,
whatever. So now this led to a Hell in a Cell match going into October.
okay.
This is how the Hell in a Cell match came because
Oh,
it was a first time match match itself that was coming towards Bad Blood, and no one realized what the Hell in a Cell match was. It was like a double steel cage match.
Is that also the night that Kane debuted?
Yes.
Wow.
So when they did the whole Paul Bear storyline,
Hmm?
when he got back with Undertaker at King of the Ring '97, because they weren't together for a while. So when they got back together, he says, Undertaker was champion still at the time. He goes, "You will listen to as I say, or I will reveal my story story on you."
Right.
Speaking of, it was Kane,
Uh-huh.
because they were going to try to do the whole Kane storyline at that time. So when Undertaker lost the title to Brett, at the time, Shawn and Taker were fighting at that time.
Okay.
So Paul Bear was coming out literally week after week doing promo stories on Undertaker's brother. And Taker told him not to talk about it. You don't talk about my family like that ever. So when he talked about Kane coming back, we were waiting for the arrival of Kane coming back at that time. So we
Okay.
were waiting for it. Was it happening at Bad Blood? Was it happening at Survivor Series? When was it going to happen? Apparently, Bad Blood was the only time that they were going to debut Kane at that time, because it's called Bad Blood. Why do you think they call it Bad Blood when he's talking about his family?
Right.
So it made more sense for Kane to debut at the pay-per-view.
Now, do you remember?
So now we're going 27 years later. No. So we're going into 17. Wait, hold on. 27 years later, we're literally going into a whole CM Punk McIntyre match
Yeah.
now, where everything adds up, because Triple H was doing the whole let's do from what Taker and Shawn did from back at SummerSlam '97. The whole spit incident where Brett spit in Shawn's face and he whacked Undertaker with the steel chair instead. So now it leads into the Shawn Taker matches in Ground Zero and Bad Blood.
Yeah.
That's why now they're doing the whole "I'm gonna break your bracelet" situation. Now we're going into Bad Blood.
That's great. I like that. I mean, you look back at what Vince McMahon did with the whole Hell in the Cell blood concept. You know, October Hell in the Cell, like, you know, it was its own pay per view, which I never understood. Obviously, with TLC as well. You know, these should be matches, not pay per views. So I'm glad that Triple H is taking old IPs, old pay per view names, and putting them, especially October Blood, you know, Halloween. I like it a lot, and obviously the Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. It calls for Bad Blood, and these matches were made out of, you know, accidents, which is beautiful. Beautiful, creative, beautiful minds. Like, you know, how can we turn this mistake into something? It's turned out great so far, and I can't wait for that pay per view.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, and the good thing is between the two that you look at from 27 years ago, the way this whole situation was set up. Because if you look back at the Rumble, like you said, the whole DDT plot in the ring, like we never knew that was happening. Now, like if that not have happened,
yeah,
we would have gotten CM Punk's title match at WrestleMania against Rollins, and
yeah. True.
that never
No,
happened.
WWE had to call an audible there, and
Had to call an audible.
yeah, no,
So
they put Punk
so
on commentary, right?
yep.
Yep.
Yep. So when Shawn Michaels was on commentary at Mania 13, he was commentating between Psycho Sid and Undertaker at WrestleMania 13. So
Wait, wait. Were you there for the Punk and McIntyre and Damien Priest cashing in? Were you there?
yes.
Yeah. So talk about
Yes.
that. Yeah. Talk about your reaction
So
to that.
the thing that I liked about that was when I knew Rollins was losing night one, I kind of thought to myself, like, you know, what were they gonna do if Damian Priest does come out and cashes in the briefcase? Like, I kind of my understanding would have been like, okay, let him wait till SummerSlam to like cash in the briefcase, because then that way you can start Damian Priest into SummerSlam going into WrestleMania next year. So that way, like when he fights Finn Balor, let him and Balor fight at WrestleMania in the following year. So the whole group expands, the whole group disbands, everybody goes their own route, and then you have your Finn Balor versus Damian Priest match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But again, now we're looking at, okay, well, Bad Blood's getting ready to come up top now. Now they want to do Finn Balor versus Damian Priest now at Bad Blood, but they haven't really told much of the story because they haven't really fought each other yet. So it's like, why are they waiting so long now to fight each other when they can start doing matches with each other upon Damian Priest losing the world title?
Right.
So instead of him fighting Finn Balor right away, they want to wait until the whole group disbands. But they didn't. So now we have Finn Balor as the new leader of the group.
Right.
So now what do? You wait until a good timing where like you bring in Demon Balor in the group. You put Demon Balor versus Damian Priest. And then if they want to do a Hell in a Cell match, they can do that. But I would rather them wait till maybe like something in WrestleMania next year and do it. Or so that way their feud would be over like completely. So once the group disbands and then
Right.
them two play each other, that whole thing's done.
Dude, I'll never forget. It was Edge. It was Brood Edge versus Finn Demon Balor at Hell in a Cell. That was really cool.
The best part about that was, I think, because Edge Edge couldn't do match after match after match each month. And I think they were waiting for a good opportunity to go into WrestleMania the following year, because they knew once Edge had that SummerSlam match with him, they felt like, you know what, let's do another match. I feel like we can like up the ante a little bit. Let's make it a lot better.
Right.
So what did they do? They did an I Quit match. That wasn't enough. So then you go 3 months later and they say, let's do a Hell in a Cell match. I think the fans would like this between the two of us. So what Edge did was he brought back the Brood music, and I think he did like Metallica. I think he did like a Metallica and a Brood theme song with Alter Bridge, which I thought was kind of cool. So, but having them fight at the end in Hell in a Cell, I thought was pretty cool. But they had already had 2 matches prior to going into WrestleMania, so it's like, how do we up this ante if they're gonna do Damian Priest versus Finn Balor? What do we do? Do we only do one match, or do we do constant matches between the two to get to that last match?
They could do matches, but then again, they've thrown hands before. We just haven't gotten that one-on-one yet.
So I could see them now if they don't do something at Bad Blood. I could definitely see them doing something, maybe Survivor Series, or like maybe we get like Judgment Day versus Damian Priest's team, or like Damian Priest goes out and gets people from NXT, or just people that he knows from like a different, maybe from like AEW. We don't know. He could get somebody to help him go against Judgment Day. So then once we get to that Finn Balor versus Damian Priest thing going to WrestleMania next year, then we're gonna get that one-on-one contest.
Yeah.
Because maybe what we could do is at Royal Rumble, we can get Finn Balor throwing Damian Priest out of the ring, and then we finally get that last match going to WrestleMania next year. We get Finn Balor versus Damian Priest.
Yeah, I can see that. What else can we talk about? You got anything?
My mind's like a ticking time bomb right now. I'm trying to think of something really, really fast. But so real quick. So in the next few weeks,
Right.
do we see Jey Uso winning the Intercontinental Championship, or does he lose and go after the World Tag Team titles with Sami Zayn?
As I stated earlier, and as JD from NY stated, Jey Uso's losing. he's gonna win this. He's gonna win this qualifier tournament and go on to face Braun Breakers, and he's gonna ultimately lose. Sami Zayn is gonna challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight title and lose. Where do they go from there? They go for the tag titles. They end up winning them. As far as them intertwining with the Bloodline for their titles for SmackDown, I don't know how we get there. Again, they could do something with Survivor Series, but again, that would defeat the purpose of the War Games match. And
Yeah.
we're just doing Vince McMahon all over again, where it's brand versus brand, instead of having a show dedicated for its respective feuds, doing a Survivor Series type match, whether it be War Games or team versus team, but on the same show. Because yeah, I mean, I did like it was Rollins SmackDown versus NXT back in 2019. I really enjoyed that. But as far as Raw versus SmackDown, I'm over.
So when they had like NXT, when they did the whole Survivor Series thing with like NXT versus SmackDown versus Raw, like 4-on-4 or 5-on-5.
If I may, that
Go
was
ahead.
again by something out of their control. If you remember, WWE had talent stuck in Saudi Arabia, and they didn't have enough talent to for SmackDown, so they had to call an audible. And what did they do?
They brought NXT.
Yes, and therefore it led to the Survivor Series of Raw and SmackDown versus NXT. Again, something that was out of their control turned into something beautiful.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go on the ballot right now, and this might be an idea. If Shane McMahon, if this is only my big
Right,
if Shane McMahon is running AEW within the next year or so,
right,
I could definitely see an invasion
right.
by next July or August on WWE, and then next Survivor Series next year, we have ourselves AEW versus WWE match for
Well,
Survivor Series.
you do know the story behind when WWE purchased WCW and ECW, right?
Right.
So they purchased ECW and WCW, and they're like, well, what kind of story can we tell? We're bringing in all this talent. How can we use them? The invasion angle. Now, JD has stated this that Tony Khan has so much money that he could literally straight up buy WWE, and that would not be a great thing because, as we know, competition is healthy. But we have all these idiots out there saying that WWE is better, AEW is better. They're both great in their respects. Shut the fuck up and just watch wrestling. But obviously, you're gonna have your tribalism, but if you really want to stir the pot, take what you say, Shane McMahon, taking what I wouldn't say taking over for Tony Khan. I mean, you could have Tony Khan running Dynamite, and then you could have Shane running Collision as far as the creative behind it. I mean, if you remember, they did the storyline of Shane McMahon purchased WCW, and you had McMahon versus McMahon, and you had the invasion angle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could talk about Shane McMahon having his group, for AEW. You can have Tony Khan during his group of the AEW, and having that sort of invasion within the company. As far as WWE and AEW working together, Tony Khan had said so much shit about WWE that I don't think it would happen, but then he said he would be open to working with them. You need to be respectful of your competitor, but also know that they're a competitor and they're there to steal your business. That's what it's all about.
They
People.
need to
Yeah,
contribute between two companies because if he's not respecting the other company that he's going against, then nothing's gonna be able to work within the next 5, 10, maybe 15, 20
right.
years from now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at PlayStation and Xbox; they're head to head when it comes to, games and who sold the most consoles. You know what? I mean, as a gamer, I really don't care. Again, it's like WWE versus AEW. I enjoy gaming. But again, you're going to have one company is better over the other. You're always going to have that. I mean, back when it was Sega and Nintendo, you had it back in the 90s. And that's what competition is all about. Competition is very healthy. And to have this in professional wrestling today, it's great. I mean, people have as as far as an employee standpoint, WWE is no longer the place of employment. If you're not satisfied over there, you have AEW over there who can satisfy what you want as far as what you're looking for, as far as who you want to work with, what a bet maybe a better work life balance, better better um, maybe not better management, but
Like anything.
what your wish list of what you want in a company. Maybe WWE provides that, whereas AEW doesn't. I mean, you have options now. Not only those two companies, but you have TNA, and it's just overall better for for the consumer, us, and the talent.
Well, the good thing is um that I've been picking this stuff up like literally daily through Wednesday nights, Friday nights, and then
Yeah,
even on Mondays. And you know, I feel like anytime like people like a Ricochet, Cesaro, Brian, there's the guys that AEW is picking up from WWE
right.
are the guys that were in the independent scene. And I feel like those indie scene guys want to work more for AEW because they want to have better matches for people. They don't want to be stuck doing storyline after storyline after storyline. They want to do matches where it fits their mobility to wrestle every night. So it
Yeah,
feels like, are we getting better, just better matches on the other company instead of just doing storyline to storyline to storyline? But when you look at WWE, ever since Triple H has taken over, we've gotten better storylines, we've gotten better matches. The backstage segments are a lot better. So it just goes to show you that, like right now, Tony
right.
Khan can't put together another show again because he's running out of ideas. And what better? I'm not saying like is Shane McMahon the guy that can raise the bar and help him do better on different shows like a Wednesday night, a Friday night, or a
Yeah,
Saturday night. It just feels different because, like I said, he's running out of more of ideas. And is Shane McMahon going to be the answer
yeah.
to all this?
Yeah, Tony Khan definitely needs all the creative help he can get. I mean, I was there for the first Dynamite back October 2nd of 2019. The energy was there. The matches were there. As far as it was just one match after one match after one match. It didn't like the show didn't have time to breathe. But after the final segment, when Jake Hager came out and debuted in AEW, then we had the story for next week and the story for next week and next week. And now I feel it's just they're putting on matches to put on matches. There's no story behind them, and I don't want to feel that AEW is there to just be there and exist. That's how I feel, and I don't want to feel like that. I want to watch AEW weekly, but I'm not doing that because I'm not invested with what's going on. However, I will say I did watch the highlights of Wednesday, where Adam Page burnt down Swerve Strickland's um, what is it? Childhood home. A lot of
And
people
it
are
takes me
saying,
back to the Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton
yeah,
segment.
I mean, you could say, oh, they stole the idea from WWE. Good, it doesn't like as long as you're feeding ideas back from one another, it's okay because we as the consumer win. We enjoy the emotion behind these feuds. AEW All Out is tonight. And we're gonna have Swerve Strickland and Adam Page tonight. That's gonna be a great match. And then as far as the AEW, where Shane McMahon's coming in, we had John Moxley say to Tony Schiavone, "This
This is
isn't."
not your company anymore.
Yeah, what did he mean by that? Meanwhile, we have Marina Shafir wrecking havoc with him backstage. Is John Moxley having a new stable? Is Shane McMahon like behind that? Like, is Shane McMahon? I mean, this is just a rumor, but then again, that picture was swirling around Twitter of Shane McMahon and Tony Khan sitting down in looked like an airport. So I don't. I mean, could Shane McMahon debut tonight? I don't know.
I mean, I feel like though, like having Shane McMahon helping Tony Khan might help them through a short run through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But yet again, like, is it going to help Tony Khan out for the future? Because I feel like having a guy like a Shane McMahon, because I'm not saying like Shane McMahon is not the answer. I just feel like in the long run, is it the right answer for him to be there? Because I feel like he can, like I said, they can only do so much. As in Triple H goes back into his playbook and says, let's do this stuff from back in 97. Let's do this back from like 96. I feel like it can
old
work
school. Yeah.
because AEW, and this is the thing about AEW doesn't have those kind of things that happened from like early 90s, early 2000s, early whatever, where WWE can do that because you got to think about it. They've been a company for almost 50, 60 years now.
Yeah.
And they can go back and Triple H can go back in the playbook and say, what can I do with these two guys that I can make it look like it happened 30, 40 years ago?
Right.
Like you said earlier, the Drew McIntyre CM Punk situation. We can definitely do that because the Undertaker Shawn Michaels situation from the end of 97 made it look so surreal that we can put these two guys together. It would make so much more sense because if it's happened throughout the whole year of 97, like when Shawn won the title, I'm gonna be honest with you, I first watched this. When Shawn won the title from Sid at the Royal Rumble, like it kind of threw everybody off because with Shawn going into the WrestleMania 13 as champion, they were going to do Undertaker versus him at WrestleMania. But Shawn got injured and he lost a smile in February, and they had to totally get rid of it. So, like you said, they had to call an audible. So Psycho Sid. So when Brett won the title at in their house the next month, Sid took the title off of him because they wanted to see Taker versus Sid at WrestleMania. They want to see Powerhouse versus Powerhouse.
Yeah.
What they now somebody also said like they could have did Austin versus Brett for the title, but Austin at the time wasn't ready to win the title yet because he had like literally just started being a heel and you couldn't give him the title yet. So what they do, they waited till the next following year in '98 to let Austin win the belt, so that way he has a full year under himself to win the title. So when you watch, now when you watch Shawn Michaels the rest of '97. After Mania 13, he was the commentary. So what did he do? He went and tagged up with Austin, won the tag belts with him, got injured again, which led to SummerSlam '97. So when he became the referee, Vince wanted him to be a referee for Taker vs. Brett. He said, what can I do to make me play the heel turn? And they were going to put Shawn as the heel because Shawn was such a babyface for all those years from 95 to 97 where Shawn needs a heel turn again because when he turned on Marty Jannetty, he only had like, I think uh, 2, 3, he had 2 to 3 years span where he was a heel. So when him and Razor fought for the Intercontinental title, that was his turning point. That was his turning point to go be a babyface. So in '97, that was 2 years later after '95, they wanted Shawn to be the heel again because they didn't want him playing the babyface throughout the rest of his contracts. So they had to call an audible and said, "Why don't you be the referee for the Brett versus Undertaker match? So that way, when you get ready to turn heel, we'll let you do that." That's why when you watch this year between Punk and McIntyre, they're trying to set up some kind of audible after he got hurt. Try to set up some kind of audible so that way Punk doesn't wrestle at WrestleMania. That's what he did with Shawn Michaels. So they did a whole plan since '97 Rumble all the way to SummerSlam.
Wow.
That's what Triple H did with McIntyre and Punk. They waited till the Royal Rumble this year and went all the way. It kept Punk out for 5-6 months just so that he could wait till SummerSlam to fight Russ at SummerSlam.
Yeah, but it goes again saying, with what happened at the Rumble, McIntyre DDTing Punk, an injury like that led to the feud that you see before you, and it's playing out. It's playing out great, and the feud is only getting more personal. McIntyre ripped something that is near and dear to Punk's heart. It might be a crappy bracelet to you and I, but for Punk, it's got his dog and wife's name on it. Like that calls for bad blood, and I want to talk to the elitists and the tribalists out there saying that they wish AEW was dead and they wish AEW never existed. Let me tell you something. If it wasn't for AEW, CM Punk would not be in WWE right now.
Yep,
And
you're exactly right.
I,
If
I, I
good.
mean, I really, I wish that things didn't happen with AEW and Punk didn't get fired, but I'm kind of glad he did because this feud with McIntyre has been so great. And
It's,
I really do hope eventually that Punk mends, his time, and time heals all wounds, and he respects AEW, and I just don't want bad blood, no pun intended, for either side, whether it be Punk or AEW, Tony Khan. I want that fence to be mended, but if it wasn't for AEW, Punk would not be in WWE right now. So you can put your fucking tribalism to bed.
so here's another thing. I actually thought about this. So they did re-sign Drew McIntyre to a big contract, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm thinking about, like the whole Brett versus Shawn situation in Survivor Series,
Mhm.
could they do another screw job between Punk and McIntyre, and McIntyre gets screwed over, and McIntyre goes to AEW?
Hmm.
That's another thing to watch out for.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could also play into Shane McMahon. Him wanting to recruit Drew McIntyre for the invasion.
Because I think if you look at it this way, like yeah, the whole Punk
I'm
McIntyre
going to be
situation might
honest,
be over.
you make a great point because after this feud, Drew McIntyre's done everything. He had his moment at Mania. I mean, it was a short moment. He won the title in front of fans, though. He's been there. He had he had the match in his home country in Scotland. What else is it? What else is for him to do? I mean, Sasha Banks, she could have gone back to the WWE because Triple H is there full time, but she opted to go to AEW. It's
Right,
amazing
right.
because Ricochet. They wrote him off TV. People say WWE is the place to be. It's the end all be all. Well, if that's the case, why did Ricochet go to
Something, how you doing?
Yeah,
AEW?
you came alone or with wife?
No, wait, listen there.
Inside.
Yeah.
I was second, sir. Good.
Good man, good.
I'm normally standing here, so sometimes changing.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, normally.
Oh my god. I'll see you Monday.
See you Monday.
All right. So
If they finish,
I'll finish. I'll finish.
okay, see you.
I'll finish. That's one of my coworkers. Sorry about that, guys. It's one of my coworkers from my job.
Oh wow.
So the good thing I will tell you this is when they were running off Ricochet for the last, I want to say last 5 months, what caught my eye a little bit was the fact that like Samantha Irvin was like watching his matches very closely, and you could definitely look because at the time they're still dating, so you got to think about it.
Yeah.
Every time she like was like, "Oh my god, what the heck did he just do?" So every time he did a move and felt like he got hurt, she's like, "Oh man, I hope he doesn't get hurt." And like that's the end of his career here, and he has to go to AEW. Like you gotta look at how are they gonna write him off TV for
Right.
him to go to AEW. Like now,
Yeah,
Braun Breaker.
but that's the thing. Like people are saying that if AEW was such a bad place to work, why is Ricochet there? Why is Ricochet in AEW right now? I mean, they could have, you know, in the tribalistic way, I could have said, oh, they could have written Ricochet off. He could have came back to the company 6 months later and feuded with Braun Breaker, but instead, they wrote him off so he could go to AEW. So if AEW is such a bad place to work, why is Ricochet there?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, that I think because Ricochet wants to be in AEW because he feels like the matches with him could be like a lot better than what they did with WWE. And I feel like high flyers like a Ray Phoenix, they can have guys like Hangman Adam Page. You got guys like Cesaro. He can have matches with. There's just guys where I feel like he needs more of the attention so he can have better matches on a different company. But when he was in WWE, I felt like WWE had way too many storylines going at the
Yeah.
time, and they couldn't really throw him under the radar. They felt like they had to put him like on the back burner because there were so many things going on that they couldn't put him on the list.
Okay.
You know, and I felt like now they have him over at AEW, makes more sense having him there, so that way he can try to have better matches, have better quality, have better segments. You know,
Bro, I didn't even watch it. I didn't even watch Dynamite, so I don't even know if he was on the show or not.
so I will. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find out if I'm gonna find out if he. I'll find out. I'll watch the highlights Wednesday and
Yeah.
see if he was there. And if he wasn't there, then I'm guessing Tony Khan is bringing him off again. So it's like, why would you bring somebody in after what almost 2 or 3 weeks now, and you've
And
already killed him off TV?
yeah, well, I wouldn't say kill them off, but give them a break. But then again, his first match debuted was with Kyle O'Reilly or Kyle Fletcher. He's in the Don Callis family. Why not have, I was waiting for some sort of wait, I believe there, so it always comes back to the end of the match, what's going to happen. I was really hoping for some sort of attack from the Don Callis family to Ricochet, therefore would lead to a feud between Ricochet and the Don Callis family, therefore you have a story, but I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
So it's like he's just another guy.
So I'm gonna leave the segment off right here. Is I'm saying within the next year or so by Survivor Series, we're definitely getting the invasion. If they don't do the invasion by next year, then I'm guessing by 2026 it's going to happen because I think what Shane's going to want to do if he does take
Yeah.
over, he's going to want to have a full year under his belt, and then once 2026 hits, I think by that summer he's going to start doing the invasion crap with WWE.
Which goes back to John Moxley telling Tony Schiavone, of all people, this
This
is
is
not
not your
your company
company anymore.
anymore. Yep. I mean, at the time, we're like, well, what does this mean? It could be next week, could be next month, could be next year, but eventually we will find out what John Moxley meant by that. Anything else you want to say? You want to? Would you like to call? Would you like to?
I'm gonna leave everybody with this message.
Yeah.
So when we get into next few weeks, because we are coming up to a season premiere of Monday Night Raw coming up this Monday night
Right.
on USA.
And the season
Um,
premiere of the series. The obviously SmackDown going to USA on
so there's
next
gonna be
Friday.
three things. There's gonna be three things we need to look for coming Monday night.
Right.
So we gotta still figure out the whole Uncle Howdy Chad Gable situation after their 8-man tag street fight. We're gonna figure out
Yes.
that.
Yes, that is happening.
And we're also gonna have to figure out what's next for Randy Orton after his world title with Gunther. And also we're going to figure out if CM Punk is definitely going after either Gunther or is going to keep his storyline going with Drew McIntyre.
Bro, you have to remember Punk storyline is in the hospital. So he might be off it. I said this on my short. Dude, NXT for USA is going to be in Chicago October 1st. Does Punk show up there for I'm not good with days.
Wait, you say NXT? NXT is coming up in October?
Yeah, October 1st. 5 days later, 5 days after the October 1st show in Chicago, which Punk will be at, 5 days later is Bad Blood. Do we see something happen on that NXT show? I think so.
So if they get Punk on NXT Tuesday night, 5 days before their match at Bad Blood, if they do have their match, I can see him returning to Chicago at NXT and calling out Drew McIntyre,
Yep. Yep.
which
Now they're
would
not
be
they're
smart because
yeah.
if they're going to write him off right now on Raw, I
Yep.
can see him going to NXT and calling him out and have their Hell in a Cell match.
Yep. Yeah, as far as them touching, I wouldn't. I would have obviously the security angle where they try to break them apart. The crowd goes crazy, and they finally they blow off steam that Saturday, and they just go at each other. all fists, all cylinders firing, and we get the match on Saturday. I think that's what WWE needs to do.
I feel like once we figure stuff out within the next few weeks, heading into Bad Blood, we're gonna figure out what's gonna transpire if they keep him off TV for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah. But we're probably going to be live again the weekend or the next week after Bad Blood, October 5th. Um, Again, we are very excited for that pay-per-view. A lot going to come out of that show. As far as feuds ending, Rhea Ripley's going to win back her title, and Punk will win against McIntyre. Those feuds will end. As far as where they go from there, we'll just have to wait and see. Cody Rhodes, as far as where he's going to fit into that show. Again, Friday we could see a Randy Orton heel turn, and that could play up to Bad Blood. We don't know. We just have to wait and see throughout the week. So what WWE does, and we're very excited to see what they do.
So, and real quick before we go offline, do you feel like when Solo and Cody fight each other next week,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like Orton does get involved in the match and cost Cody the win against Solo Sikoa? That bowls over into their feud happening now.
No, I don't see. Well, I realistically don't see Solo Sikoa having the WWE title around his waist. So Cody's winning regardless, but obviously it's a steel cage match. It's designed to keep people up, but we all know that's not the case. Roman Reigns is going to show up as far as Jimmy showing up. Someone else pointed out, people online, they have their opinions. We have our opinions. Jimmy might show up. Paul Heyman might show up, as to help Cody within that match, but kind of be out of it. Obviously we'll see the interference from the new bloodline, but then again, we have probably them coming from the crowd. Roman's going to come probably from stage and interrupt, and we're going to get Roman's music hit, and everyone's going to cheer and go, holy shit. Because as you remember, he was what was he, triple power bombed onto the announce table. Randy was triple bombed on the announce table. Kevin Owens was, hit. He had a chair wrapped around his throat, and hit in the steel pipe. Cody Rhodes was taken out for the on the announce table, but for Cody Rhodes to watch Kevin Owens and Randy Orton be, decimated by the bloodline, only for him to watch, I think Cody's going to, take out his frustration on Solo Sikoa on Friday.
And I also
for
and I
sure.
also and I also feel like Roman Reigns coming back at SummerSlam was perfect timing, only because at that time, like you said, Kevin Owens was getting beat up, Orton was getting beat up, Cody Rhodes was getting beat up. So Roman Reigns had to come back at some point in that time.
Yes.
So now the bloodline's going after Roman Reigns by himself. So because now Kevin Owens is out of the picture, Randy Orton's out of the picture, and Cody Rhodes is out of the picture, and that only leaves Roman Reigns by himself. So these three guys are not going to help Roman Reigns out, defend off the bloodline. How's this going to be the point if we get back Uso brothers and Sami Zayn back together?
Right. Well, guys, that'll do it for us. If you like what you see, consider subscribing to my channel and T's as well. Enjoy the weekend, guys. And we're going to be back for, the next couple of weeks of wrestling. Is going to be fun. So buckle up. And then obviously after the weekend of Bad Blood, we will be live again to give our thoughts and opinions on where WWE and AEW are going to go on with their shows. Again, have a great next couple of weeks, guys, and take care.
See you guys.